English stories with Lengo cards.
The Ghostly Secrets of Whitestone Manor. Chapter 1. The Haunted Manor. Whitestone Manor, a large and impressive building, stood proudly in the town, but it was not an ordinary castle. It was said to be haunted. Despite the warnings, Mr. Thompson, a wealthy American, was intrigued by the manor's charm and decided to buy it. Excitement filled the air as Mr. Thompson looked at the manor with great happiness.
I'll buy it,
he said happily, much to the surprise of his guide, Lord Kensington. However, Lord Kensington felt the need to give a warning.
Whitestone Manor is haunted,
He said, telling the story of his great-aunt's terrible experience, which made his family leave the manor. Mr. Thompson was not bothered by the ghostly reputation and ignored the warning. He simply didn't believe in ghosts.
I'm sure my family and I will find great happiness here.
He confidently said.
Tap the like button and warm the heart of Whitestone Manor.
A week later, the Thompson family arrived at Whitestone Manor. Mr. and Mrs. Thompson, along with their children, William, Victoria, and the mischievous twins, were kindly welcomed by an old woman dressed in a clean white apron and cap.
I'm Mrs. Underwood, the housekeeper.
She introduced herself, leading them inside. The family followed Mrs. Underwood into the manor, and she showed them to the library, where tea was waiting for them. The aroma of freshly brewed tea filled the room as they sat down. The twins, unable to contain their excitement, happily exclaimed and eagerly indulged in the sweet treats. However, Victoria, the thoughtful and observant daughter, noticed a poem displayed in the library window. Its words piqued her curiosity. A child's midnight stay in the secret chamber's lad brings rest to Sir Richard, Whitestone's ghostly heir. Before Victoria had a chance to show the poem to her father, Mrs. Thompson gasped, capturing everyone's attention with a spilt drink on the carpet.
Oh no, I'm afraid we've spilt something on the carpet, Mrs. Underwood.
Mrs. Thompson said worriedly, concerned about the stain. Mrs. Underwood's response was unexpected. She spoke quietly, saying,
It wasn't you, madam. Blood has been spilt there.
Her words sent shivers down their spines.
How dreadful.
Mrs. Thompson said, worried about removing the stain.
It must be cleaned immediately.
Mrs. Underwood looked around nervously, her voice trembling as she revealed the chilling truth.
It is the blood of Lady Arabella Whitestone. Her husband, Sir Richard Whitestone, murdered her on that very spot 500 years ago. Sir Richard Whitestone vanished 7 years later, and his body was never found.
The family was taken aback by the dark history of the manor. However, William, the brave and practical eldest son, couldn't help but interject.
Who believes in such ghost stories?
He was determined to prove that ghosts were merely tales and grabbed a cloth to clean the bloodstain. Surprisingly, the stain vanished within seconds. William smiled proudly, confident that his actions had dispelled the ghostly presence. But as he stood up, a sudden loud noise of thunder echoed through the manor, followed by a bright flash of lightning. The storm seemed to mock William's triumph over the stain. Amidst the chaos, Mrs. Underwood fainted, overwhelmed by the storm and the events. The thunderstorm continued throughout the night, with rain pounding against the manor's windows and wind howling down the chimneys. The Thompson family huddled together, feeling anxious as they tried to comprehend the strange occurrences. Despite their initial skepticism, The unsettling atmosphere and Mrs. Underwood's fainting made them question whether there was some truth to the manor's haunted reputation. The ghost of Sir Richard Whitestone roamed the halls of the manor at night, unleashing a symphony of strange and unsettling sounds, the clanking of chains, mournful howls, and chilling whispers that echoed through the darkness. Chapter 2. The Secret Chamber. The following morning, the storm had passed, leaving a gloomy and damp atmosphere behind. Mrs. Underwood, having recovered from her faint, apologized for the incident and assured the family that such events were rare. However, a sense of unease still lingered among the Thompson family. As the day progressed, the Thompson children decided to explore the manor further. Intrigued by the poem she had discovered in the library, Victoria felt compelled to find the hidden chamber mentioned in the verse. She believed that unraveling its mystery might bring peace to Whitestone Manor. Victoria began her search, closely examining the walls and tapping on them, hoping to discover a secret door. As she explored, she stumbled upon a loose brick in the hallway. With cautious excitement, she pushed the brick, revealing a concealed passageway behind it. Illuminated only by a dim light, the passage beckoned her deeper into the manor's secrets. Following the winding path, Victoria eventually arrived at a small chamber. To her surprise, she found herself face to face with a portrait of Sir Richard Whitestone. The painting depicted a gaunt and sorrowful figure surrounded by an eerie aura. As Victoria studied the portrait, she felt an inexplicable connection with the tormented spirit of Sir Richard. Suddenly, a cold breeze swept through the room, extinguishing the candle that had guided Victoria's way. Darkness enveloped the chamber, and Victoria's heart raced. Just as fear began to grip her, a gentle voice echoed in the room.
Who dares enter my domain?
The voice asked, its tone a mixture of sorrow and longing. Victoria, though startled, summoned her courage and replied,
Sir Richard, I am Victoria Thompson, and I seek to understand your restless spirit.
The voice softened, and the ghostly figure of Sir Richard materialized before her. He appeared translucent, draped in an ethereal white robe that floated around him. His eyes, filled with centuries of anguish, gazed upon Victoria.
You are brave, young Victoria.
Sir Richard spoke, his voice carrying a sense of longing.
For centuries, I have wandered these halls burdened by guilt and sorrow. No one has shown such compassion as you.
Feeling sympathy and curiosity, Victoria asked,
What can bring you peace, Sir Richard? How can we free your spirit from this eternal torment?
Sir Richard's form flickered as he revealed his tragic tale. He confessed to the murder of his wife, Lady Arabella, driven by jealousy and rage. The guilt had consumed him, and his restless spirit had haunted Whitestone Manor ever since. Victoria listened intently, understanding the weight of Sir Richard's remorse. Determined to help, she proposed,
Perhaps forgiveness is the key to your liberation, Sir Richard. If Lady Arabella's spirit could find it in her heart to forgive you, you might find the peace you seek.
Moved by Victoria's words, Sir Richard pondered the possibility.
But how can I face her after all I have done?
Victoria reassured him.
If your remorse is genuine, there is hope for redemption. Let me speak to Lady Arabella's spirit, and we shall seek forgiveness together.
Don't miss a single chapter of our extraordinary narrative. Hit the subscribe button now.
Chapter 3. The Spirit's Forgiveness. Victoria ignited the candle's flame and turned towards Sir Richard. Standing before Lady Arabella's portrait, she spoke softly, conveying Sir Richard's remorse and his yearning for forgiveness. A gentle breeze filled the chamber at that moment, and Lady Arabella's spirit materialized beside her husband's portrait. Her ethereal form radiated warmth and compassion.
I have carried the pain of your betrayal for centuries.
Lady Arabella's spirit spoke, her voice filled with a mix of sorrow and forgiveness.
But if your remorse is genuine, Sir Richard, I am willing to release both of us from this eternal anguish.
Tears welled up in Sir Richard's eyes as he humbly pleaded,
I beg for your forgiveness, dear Arabella. I have been tormented by my actions for far too long. Let me find peace and redemption.
Lady Arabella's spirit approached Sir Richard, her translucent hand reaching out to touch his.
At this moment, I grant you my forgiveness,
She declared, her voice carrying a sense of release and absolution. As their spirits intertwined, a radiant light enveloped the chamber, filling it with serene energy. The oppressive atmosphere that had plagued Whitestone Manor began to dissipate, replaced by newfound tranquility. Victoria watched in awe as the spirits of Sir Richard and Lady Arabella Whitestone embraced, their forms merging into a single radiant figure. Their troubled souls, finally at peace, ascended towards a higher realm, leaving behind a sense of closure and serenity. Word of the supernatural encounter quickly spread throughout the manor, reaching the ears of the Thompson family and the manor's staff. The once skeptical Jonathan and the mischievous twins stood in awe, realizing the power of forgiveness and the existence of spirits. Chapter 4. A New Beginning. From that day forward, Whitestone Manor underwent a transformation. Its dark reputation faded, replaced by tales of redemption and forgiveness. The Thompson family, grateful for the experience, dedicated themselves to preserving the manor's legacy while sharing the story of Sir Richard and Lady Arabella's redemption with future generations. And so, Whitestone Manor became a beacon of hope, reminding all who visited that even the darkest spirits could find solace through the power of forgiveness and the soul's redemption. As for Victoria, she couldn't forget the Whitestone ghosts. They left a deep impression on her. They made her really interested in supernatural things. She decided to spend her whole life studying paranormal things and go into haunted places. She wanted to help people who were searching for answers and make them feel better. And thus Whitestone Manor's tale and the Thompson family's remarkable journey came to an end, leaving behind a legacy of forgiveness, compassion, and the enduring belief that even in the realm of spirits, redemption is possible. The end. Have you enjoyed this story? Like and subscribe to our channel now to unlock fresh tales and level up your English skills.